Parishioners are still adjusting to some of the big announcement made that 13 parishes across the greater New Orleans area will reduce to 5. It's expected to happen next July. The last big consolidation in the New Orleans Archdiocese came after Hurricane Katrina. 40 parishes were consolidated into 20, and 20 individual churches closed. Jari Honora, an historian with the Historic N.O collection, is joining us now with a look back at some of the changes we've seen over the years in the Catholic Church. They say the reason for this one is many. There are many reasons. They're saying lack of parishioners. Also, they're in bankruptcy. They've had a lot of charges levied against the church.
That's right. There's no getting around it that the effects of the bankruptcy are factored into this round of church closures and mergers. But it really reflects the change in face of the church in Orleans Parish in particular. I think one of the harbingers of this was the closure of so many of our parochial schools, which were a major form of evangelization. And where there are not young people, there is ultimately no church.
And a lot of buildings they do close and eventually sell are historic buildings.
That's right, and many of them have been repurposed into hotels, into eateries, into Airbnb.
Into homes?
Homes even, yes, absolutely. So I think it's fortunate that we have people who are preservation-minded in New Orleans and are able to rehab these buildings and repurpose them.
And the Historic New Orleans collection does such a great job on categorizing and covering the history of New Orleans.
That's right, covering the history of New Orleans and all of its diverse neighborhoods. And you know, for so many New Orleanians, identifying with their church parish is almost as important as identifying with their neighborhood.
Well, because it is a big part of the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Especially and this is a very Catholic city, and it was even more so in years past.
Absolutely, and with the large number of diverse ethnic groups and racial groups that we had in New Orleans, there were church parishes for all of these people, so that it wasn't hard to find within, say, 6 to 7 blocks of each other an additional Catholic church parish.
And how many churches have been repurposed and that you've cataloged at the HNOC?
I would say somewhere around 60 churches in recent years, maybe in the last 2 decades or so, have been shuttered and repurposed or sold.
And what are some of the more historic ones that we might remember and that really do carry a lot of history?
Well, many of the ones in the downtown section of the city, such as St. Peter's and Paul, Holy Trinity.
Which they've done a beautiful job on.
Done a beautiful job of refitting. One that is going to be closed or consolidated into a single parish in this most recent round is Our Lady Star of the Sea, which is a massive church.
That's a gorgeous church, but that's a gorgeous church, and that will go on the market?
Probably. I think that it has been sort of an albatross for that parish to support the upkeep of that historic building, which is massive in scale.
And how old is that building?
I believe it was built right before the turn of the century.
But it is a beautiful church when you go inside. But I'm glad you guys are documenting all this.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you coming in. For a full list of the mergers and the closures of churches, you can go to our website, wwltv.com. We'll be right back.